Okay, so welcome to the final go-to session of the month. We're at the end. I'm really proud of you guys. We've had better retention numbers this month than just about any month I can remember, so I appreciate everybody's hard work for hanging in there, completing assignments. I know things move fast, so congratulations, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause. By the way, I see something in the chat. Kevin saying so cold. Is there any place right now that's cold? Uh, I don't know. It's hot here in Florida. It's Roseville, wherever that is, Roseville. I'm going to say Georgia. Roseville sounds like Georgia. Chicago, yeah, that's where I'm from. I usually try to keep tabs on what the weather's like back home. Oh wow, was I off? California. Uh, yeah, Florida's kind of goofy. Really cool up in the Panhandle. That's kind of amazing. I mean, it's cooled off somewhat here in Orlando, meaning that it's been consistently in the 80s every day instead of the 90s, but that's still warm. Or as I like to joke, we'll finally get a break from the heat when Thanksgiving arrives. Okay, so this is the final session. I already explained to the people who were in the room before I started the recording that today's session, it usually goes about half an hour because I really don't have much to go over. It's a little bit late to start introducing new concepts. Everybody's weary and just wants to make it to the finish line for the most part. The course ends Sunday, which is a quick reminder that I'm not going to show the activities board, but just remember there are a couple ungraded discussions to participate in. I'm glad to see that the revised digital vision project is pretty much underway for a lot of people. That's a 5% discussion, so make sure that you're doing that. I talked about that in the last session. You're basically kind of doing what you did way back in week one. You're just doing it from a new perspective after having taken this course for 4 weeks. But the final kind of big assignment is what we want to cover today. And I think I said it at the end of the last session, but in some ways it's called bringing it all home, and it's a nice return home because it's kind of the one assignment where you don't have to juggle 10 million different things. You don't have to worry about DGO. You don't have to use presentation software unless you want to. You don't have to bookmark things. You don't have to take screenshots of things. I mean, it's pretty much strictly textual. You'll just need Microsoft Word, or if you don't have Microsoft Word, you use an online tool like Google Docs, or most people are familiar with how to create a word processing document even if they don't have Word. Okay, so I call this the wrap up and goodbye. But here is a quick overview. I want to go over what's called the Digital Citizenship Compass because it plays a role in the final assignment. It's not difficult to understand, but I will take a quick look at it and we'll walk through an example. And then I do want to get into the assignment itself with a bit more uh, specificity. And then, real quickly, and you might think about it now and have an answer at the ready, but what are some of the favorite things you kind of did this month? Um, Perhaps there was nothing that was a favorite, but hopefully there was something, a specific TED Talk video, a specific tool that you encountered for the first time, a specific concept or discussion that we had, etc. So this kind of last stuff here is kind of in the reflection category. Okay, so charging ahead. What you see on the screen now is what's called the Digital Citizenship Compass. Um, it looks just like a normal compass, right? Except instead of north, south, east, and west, and all the spaces in between, northwest, northeast, we have these sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, kind of like moral stances, right? So instead of north and south, we have right and wrong. Instead of east and west, we have maybe, maybe not, or it doesn't bother me, and then we have different things in between. Not necessarily wrong or it doesn't bother me, but kind of in between, like, I'm not so comfortable with this. So, why is this citizenship compass important? One, because it's kind of cool and fun. You get to place yourself on the compass. But mostly it's important because it's part of your final assignment. There's a complete section that deals with the citizenship compass where you'll be given prompts, and your job is not just to answer where you fall on the compass given the scenario, the prompt that's provided, but you'll have to provide an explanation. And as I'll stress several times throughout this session, you'll try to connect information back to the stuff we learned in class. Now, hold on a second. I've moved the control panel back in front of the digital compass. I'll move it out of the way in a second so people can see the choices again. But like, here's a prompt. This one, it doesn't appear in your activity that's due Sunday, we kind of vary the different prompts and the different questions because every so often we get students who have to take DGL again, and we don't want them to just literally be doing the same assignments exactly. So from month to month, we'll vary. For example, that first DGO assignment and have slightly different vocabulary words. So this actually comes from a different version of the exact same assignment you're going to do, but it gives you a sense of what you'll see on the assignment. So like here's the scenario, here's the prompt, okay? And I want you to use the chat box, or you can raise your hand and speak out loud to kind of find where you are on the moral sort of digital citizenship compass to see how you feel about this. So you work for a club. The owner approaches you about your knowledge of Photoshop and wants you to edit some pictures of the club that are going to go on the club's website. He wants you to add in equipment that the club does not have, famous artists who have never played at the club, and to add people to the crowd shots to make the club look more crowded. Okay, I'm going to move the control panel to the left. I hope people got the gist of that scenario. But where do people fall on this citizenship compass, and why? Is this right? Wrong? Is it somewhere in between? Does it not bother you? Again, okay, so you're working for a club. The owner wants you to take pictures for the website using your Photoshop skills. Okay, so Kevin says it's absolutely wrong. It would be false advertising. Okay, so okay, Kevin's in the wrong camp. Anybody? Are other people in agreement, or do you think it's right? And I actually want some. Okay, Taylor also says completely wrong. Uh, Anybody want to argue that could be in some of these gray areas? Like it could, because there's a lot of flexibility here. Like it could be right with a few changes, or maybe you're not comfortable with it, but I don't know. As an employee, you might feel like it's your place to do what the guy says. Although that gets into a completely separate issue, which is when do you take your stand as an employee, and when do you just shut your trap and go along with what the boss says? How about some of the other people in the room? Where do we stand on this? Okay. I don't know if people are typing or if we just got a quiet group or if people fell asleep literally in front of their computers on the desk and are drooling on the keyboard. Okay, I'll try to make a case for one of these in between ones because let's see, where would I be on this one? I'd probably be somewhere in here. What is this, northwest or southeast? Partly I'm kind of not comfortable with it, but also I think with maybe some changes, maybe it could be okay. And by that I mean, okay, here's the thing that bothers me the most about the scenario. It's really this one here, including images of famous artists who have not actually visited the club. Not only is that false advertising, but considering what we've talked about this week in terms of giving credit and citing, and we often think of citation like when we think of like essays that we write, but we're talking about citation in the larger sense, which means you can't just take photos of celebrities and stick their picture on your website. I mean, I don't know what the rule is. I think if you happen to take a photo of a celebrity, there's no rule against you having that photo or possibly, I don't know, sharing it. But certainly when you're using it for commercial purposes, that gets into like lawsuit territory. So yeah, I would say that the famous artist part is absolutely wrong. So I'm in agreement with Kevin and Taylor there. Like that's a biggie that you just can't do. But the other stuff, I don't know. Haven't you ever watched like a fast food commercial, and the burger looks awesome in the commercial, right? So big, so juicy. Looks like you need to unhinge your jaw in order to sort of open your mouth wide enough to eat the thing. And then you go through the drive-through and buy one of those stupid burgers, and what does it look like? It was this sad little looking thing that's tiny, and the lettuce is old and wilted, and the cheese is kind of like hardened at the edges. Jordan says, "Can we raise our hand?" Yeah, there's a little hand icon on your panel that indicates that you have your hand up, and then I can unmute you if you want to speak out loud. So yeah, with this issue of like the crowd shots, it's like it's not necessarily completely false. I mean, after all, maybe there are nights where the club is busier than others, right? Maybe on a Tuesday night it's not necessarily packed, but on a Saturday night or Friday night, like it's hopping. Are you really going to take pictures of the slow night and put that up on your website? No, of course not. So I'm not sure it's 100% misleading. Yeah, I guess you'd have to kind of know the situation in detail. Obviously, if it's a completely sad club, I don't know. Then it might be false advertising. But even then, invite a bunch of your friends for free and take pictures that night. I'm not trying to support advertising or the tricks that they do, but it's kind of common sense. You try to put your business in the best light. Yeah, the equipment thing's kind of odd too. I'm not really comfortable with that, but I don't know if it's equipment that's similar to what the club actually has, or if it's equipment that the club basically has. But I don't know. Maybe I. By the way, I'm not really a club goer. Uh, but let's say that your equipment is perfectly fine and it's top notch. I don't know what kind of speakers they would use in a club, but you know, but maybe you Photoshop in actual kind of glitzy pictures of the equipment you truly do own, but it just makes it look newer. I don't know. Is that deceiving? Is that deceptive? Is it not? So, and by the way, there's no right or wrong answer to this thing. It's not like when you answer and you say, "Oh, that's absolutely wrong," or "That's absolutely right." I mean, it's not my job to sort of say, "Oh, wrong answer." I remember, you can be anywhere on the compass. You just have to justify your answer with some care, explain your answer with some depth, and try to connect the concepts to stuff we've learned in digital literacy. So, for example, this scenario can cover anything from credibility, right? Because from the consumer's perspective, it gets into the issue of what's true or what's not true when you're online. From the club owner or the employee perspective, it gets into issues of citation or giving credit. Um, Digital law, right? Famous artists, you can't just take their images and put it into your commercial venture. So, yeah, so this is what we're kind of doing. And this is actually part two of the assignment, where you'll get a bunch of prompts that are much like these, and you'll state where you're on the compass. You'll give an explanation, and you'll try to connect it back to course concepts. So yeah, everybody's answers in the chat box look great. Think it's wrong? It's wrong. If you're more like Jordan and me, where you think it's worth a shot, well, I don't know if I'm at it's worth a shot if I don't get in trouble. But I'm kind of like Jordan in that I'm in one of those in between areas. That could be right with changes, or that some parts of it I'm not exactly crazy about. Actually, let me switch gears and bring up the actual assignment just for a second. Yeah. Okay, so here's your bringing it all together. You can read through the top part on your own. It goes through objectives, blah blah blah. How you guys already know by now how your file should be labeled. But it's basically broken down into three parts: part one, part two, part three. And most students just open up a Microsoft Word document, right? Your student name, number goes somewhere on the page, typically in the top left corner, and you'll literally have like a part one, a part two, and a part three. So let's real quickly look at part one. Part one is kind of mix and match. You have 9 terms, right? The 9 categories of digital citizenship, and you just need to match them up with the 9 situations down here. Uh, but that's not all. I mean, okay, let's go through one together. Let me pick one that I don't mind burning up in this session. Okay, number 8: adding items to your wish list on Amazon that you share with your friends and family. Okay, so adding stuff to your Amazon wish list. I picked this one because it's kind of so easy that I don't mind that we give it away in the session. But like, what area does this fall under in terms of the 9 elements of digital citizenship? Okay, like it's clearly not digital health and wellness. I'm hoping it's super easy and that everybody's going to jump forward at any second now and scream out what the answer is. Adding stuff to your Amazon wish list falls under which of these categories? Are we not sure? Or is it so easy that it's insulting for me to even ask you? I mean, we're going through this one because it's kind of easy, and we can do it as an example. Digital access. Try again. Look, it's a good thing we're doing it together. Okay, yeah, Taylor, digital commerce, right? Because digital commerce deals with the online buying and selling of goods. So Amazon.com is an example of that. And by the way, I mean, Jordan, it's fine to get it wrong in the session rather than when you hand it in. But guess what? It's like none of these past materials are closed. So if you need to go back and go to that digital citizenship reading, 9 elements. By the way, it's such a famous reading that you don't even need to go to FSO. You just start typing in 9 elements of digital. Actually, as soon as you start typing in 9 elements, I think Google immediately returns that reading as like its first result. So go to that reading. Look at those descriptions with some care and match them up with the right answers, because there are three that are sort of, I don't want to say tricky. As long as you go back to that reading and kind of remind yourself of what area it covers, you should be fine. But there are three that if you don't go back and kind of do some open book quiz style answering, they're easy to confuse. I'm trying to think which ones they are. It might have been the one Jordan mentioned. It's usually like I think it's like digital. Yeah, digital law, digital communication, digital access. Because these ones are kind of the broader categories, people sort of start applying them to anything, which I can kind of see. But there really are 9 options here, and there should be 9. I mean, if you switch 2 of them around, I usually don't get angry, especially if you have a pretty good justification for your answer. Uh, but you want to try to get as many of them correct as possible. Okay, so you need to match these items with the correct description, but that's not it. So don't just say for number 8, uh, digital commerce, and leave it at that. You also have to provide an explanation for why that term fits best. Now, for the Amazon one, you don't necessarily have to go into. It's pretty simple, right? I mean, you explain that digital commerce is, I don't know, the online selling of buying and selling of goods, right? And that will be fine for me. Others might take you a bit more time to explain, but you're providing an answer and an explanation. And here's another thing that people often forget with your submission: provide the statement, okay, followed by your answer and explanation. Why? Because it's really difficult on my end when I get submissions and they're just answers. Because even though, yes, I've taught this class so many times that I kind of know these questions like the back of my hand, I don't know the specific order memorized. So it helps me if I see the prompt followed by your answer and explanation. Okay, and this is a PDF document, which I don't think really allows you to just copy and paste, or maybe there's a way, but I haven't figured it out. But like, you can always download the PDF to your document, and in 2 seconds you can Google, like, there are plenty of free tools that convert PDF files to Microsoft Word, so you don't have to literally go back and forth between the PDF and your. I'm trying to read the chat. It says it's open to copy paste the questions. I'm not sure what that means. Are you saying that it is possible to copy? Because again, when I always try it, it seems like, well, we could try it now. Let me download this to my desktop. Maybe it's because I'm always trying to copy it from the web version of it. Okay, so I open up, bring it all together. Here's the PDF. Same thing we're looking at, so we'll just keep this open as we discuss it. But like, if I try to copy this, oh, it looked like it worked. Maybe it's because I was always trying to copy from the online version of it. So well, let me try it out just to make sure. But you perhaps don't even need to convert it. Let me just see if I can stick it in one of my slides here. Okay, bingo. Taylor's right. Yeah, so real simple. Make sure you download the PDF before you start copying and pasting from it. But since it's pretty easy, just paste the questions over, okay, into Microsoft Word, and then start answering them. Like I said, it's really, really awkward to just get your answers. Like, literally, I'll open your paper and I'll see things like right, wrong, and then an explanation, and then I have to do I have to go back and forth to figure out what you're specifically answering. Okay, so there's part 1: mixing, matching, explaining, so on. Part 2 we already went over. Okay, digital compass, establishing where you are on the compass, providing a somewhat detailed response, and connecting it to class concepts. I would say the biggest issue, and the one that students lose some points. I don't take off massive points, but you do lose points. It could be 5 points per area. It could be as many as 7 to 10 points if it's really thin. But I'd say the biggest issues I see is people don't really take the time to provide a detailed explanation. No, you don't have to write a novel. You don't even have to write a really long paragraph, but it should be more than like a sentence. Okay, because people will sometimes just say, "Oh, this could be right with a few changes because the club owner should know better." Okay, or something like that, or it barely says more than that, and I'm looking for more specificity than that in this section. So be careful of that. And yeah, I mean we already went through one, but you can see there are lots of fun categories. Uh, which is the one I like the most? Oh yeah, this one because it relates to the class. Your teacher assigns you group work with students that you don't like. You ignore your group members. Just before the assignment is due, you send an email to your group members and scream that none of them tried to get in touch with you, and then forward the email to your teacher. So yeah, I like where do you stand on the moral compass there, and what possible categories of digital citizenship could that fall under? By the way, again, not just for the 9 elements of digital citizenship, but to remind yourself of what we've gone over this month, just kind of scan through what we've done from week to week, right? So week one we talked about digital natives versus digital immigrants. Week two was more about credibility online, separating fact from fiction. Week three was what did we do week three? Oh yeah, the actual digital citizenship itself. Um, and finally, this week has been more about copyright citation and all that. So jog your memory, give yourself a reminder of what we've covered this month. Okay, and part three is it really it's kind of similar to part two in lots of ways. You're given more scenarios, uh, and you're basically going to kind of do the same thing. It's just you're not using the moral compass this time. You're just giving your explanation. You're going to try to connect it to the course material. So let's see, what's a good one here? Uh, and some of them aren't even just your opinions so much. I mean, some of them kind of ask you what steps you would take, but uh, oh, this is one I like. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Online dating. A friend of yours has found the love of his life online. What would you do to try to support your friend and make sure he's not getting fooled? By the way, here's how out of touch I am. Like I had no idea that catfish was a term that referred to. I don't know if it's online dating specific or if it's just a general term that's used to. Yeah, Jordan, that's what I eventually caught on to. That's it's a cultural reference that I didn't get. Like I do watch lots of television, but it tends to be silly stuff like I don't know Agents of Shield or the Vampire Diaries that show that mostly women watch, but I watch it too. But isn't this a reality show, the catfish thing? So yeah, reality television I hardly pay attention to, unless it's not reality. I don't know. That was my guess. I can't imagine a show that's. But I had no idea what it was. So the first time the DGL powers that be put this specific scenario into the new assignment, I was like, catfish. What is that? But yeah, that's a fun one, right? So how could you help your friend to make sure he's not getting fooled? I mean, literally, you're going to answer how to do that, but also you should be sliding in some sort of concepts. I hate to give away answers, but for this one, it has to do again with like issues of credibility, right? Like being able to determine what's fact and fiction online. You could also argue that it gets into issues of. Oh, now I need to remind myself of the nine elements of digital citizenship. Um, it could get into issues of digital communication, and some of these you could argue that it may even apply to some of these other categories, right? If you're suspicious that the person is just fishing on the other end to get information, it could deal with the issues of digital security. So there, I've already helped you with another question. Okay, so three specific parts. You're just going to put them into a Microsoft Word document and provide the fullest answers that you can, trying to connect them as much as possible to concepts learned during the course. If you do that, you'll do pretty well in the assignment. People honestly just lose points when they don't do those things. Um, okay, so to wrap up, have people given thought to like what your favorite stuff was this month? Was there a favorite tool? either a specific tool that we introduced in the class or maybe one that you encountered on your own as a means to fulfill one of the assignments. Okay, Taylor says Prezi and Digo is awesome. Yeah, Prezi's a fun one. Like, if people haven't used it before, it's kind of nifty presentation software. Yeah, every month people love Digo. I should stop. I don't badmouth it in week one, but I always say that it could be a little bit more user friendly, a little less not cumbersome, but it's just I don't know. There are sometimes more attractive looking dashboards that you can navigate and move things around, and sometimes Digo can. Remember, people were so thankful, or at least they lied and said they were thankful during week one when I did the walkthrough because it seemed like confusion until I showed just how easy it was. Okay, so Digo. Anything else, like a favorite idea or a favorite activity? Were there any TED Talks that you liked? I like the YouTube one. That one I think is fascinating. Just the pure statistics about how much stuff is uploaded per day to YouTube, and the efforts they need to go to sort of filter through all that stuff. Okay, Kevin liked the team debate. Yeah, the team debate that went well for the most part. There's sometimes some personality issues in some of the groups, but yeah, that's a fun one because people help people, and I do have to admit that all the boards were hopping, even more so than in some other months. Like people were really on top of things. Um, Jordan did not like the debate. Okay, you don't have to love every assignment. You just have to hopefully like some of them. Let me see. I swear we're just about done. I'm not going to trap you here on purpose just to keep you longer, but I'm trying to think. Even I've taught this a million times. What are some of my favorite things? Uh, location. I'm not sure if it's an activity that I love to do, but I always love showing it to students because they often don't realize that, like, our smartphones and our digital cameras uh, report information about us that we don't even know. So I kind of like explaining that. I forget which was the other TED Talk video that I really liked. I think it was one of the early ones. Oh yeah, the separating fact and fiction online. Maybe it's a little bit too political and too precise for some people, but I'm kind of a news junkie, so I love that the example of like trying to figure out whether that bridge in Syria really matches the information that the journalists had received. I like that. A lot of the TED Talk videos are pretty awesome. I mean, I shouldn't criticize any of them. For some reason, the moral operating system is probably the least interesting one to me, but the others are all pretty awesome. And lots of people like the moral operating system one too. So who am I to say? Okay. Any final questions, comments before our tearful goodbye? Did people pretty much get the gist of what to do for the final assignment? It's not difficult, right? Like for once, you don't have to worry about Digo and screenshots and presentation software and this and that and the other. It's literally just putting answers into a Microsoft Word document and handing it in. So hopefully there's not so much confusion here. But anything else that you want to ask before I let you go? Or if you think you're good to go, just let me know that you're good to go, and we'll officially call it a month. Uh, Thank you, Taylor. Uh, that's nice to hear. Not all students feel the same way, but a lot of them are pretty happy at the end of the month. I am happy about that. Did you discuss the vision board? No, is there something specific you want me to cover? I kind of covered it in passing in the last session on Tuesday, just because I wasn't trying to skip by it. But I think it really is the same thing you were doing during week one, where you created your digital identity both as a project and as a written explanation. You're doing the same thing, except it's changed. It's revised now based on what you've learned these past 4 weeks. Okay, you don't have to have changed, but probably you should have changed in some small way. And if unless you have a more specific question, Jordan, I would say like go to the board, look at what people are posting. I've already jumped in there today and made some feedback to some people. So that should give you some direction. I think it's really kind of the same thing as you did in week one. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and officially stop the recording.